like, oh, hey, you guys. I was going to say, I just did a live like 40 minutes ago. So we'll see who comes on.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow, you're running around.
This about why you are your own block. Why you are your own block. And that's just.
Okay. Let's block to block. Let's figure this out.
All right, you guys. Oh, my gosh. Welcome back, you guys, because I haven't seen you in about 40 minutes. All right. Say hey.
They're not gonna be tired of you, honey. They want more. Give them what they want.
Right? I told them, I said, I'm just fucking awesome, right? I'm just fucking awesome. So
can't help it.
Say hey as you guys come in. Make sure you let us know where you're coming from. If you're coming from YouTube or Facebook, let us know how you're doing tonight, where you are at in this world, and how is your life today. I'm really excited to have Girstin. I don't know why I was about to say Kristen. Girstin.
No,
oh my God. And
I am.
You're looking at the banner. Make sure you guys like us on YouTube and iTunes. And also, please, please, please share this episode if you catch us on the replay. #replay. I am really excited. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started in this episode. I'm going to drop into the intro, and then I'm going to let Girstin introduce herself. And we're going to have an amazing, epic, awesome, everything else episode. So without further ado, hello and welcome to the TUF Woman Table. I'm going to get a soundboard one day where it does that applause thing. So this is the table where I invite some super badass tough women like Girstin here to take a seat and join in on the conversation and share her amazing story. At TUF Woman, I believe that all women have the power within themselves to live life authentically, free from fear, confident in who they are, and empowered as fuck to go out and live a life that sets their soul on fire. I share this belief by championing tough women who have walked through the fire, felt the fear, faced adversity, and kept pushing through it all. Women who own their stories so that other women can embrace and own theirs as well. Because as we all know, when you give yourself permission to own and share your story, you give someone else permission as well. So, oh, look at that. We already got people like loving the hell out of it. So yes, drop a lot of hearts first, you guys. And make sure you guys, as for anybody who's new to the show, in case you're coming on, please feel free to interact. I love comments, and you will see comments come across the screen, and we will answer any questions you have. But without further ado, I want to introduce my amazing guest, Girstin. She has been on the panel before, but now she's going to tell you guys a little bit about her story, who she is, and what and her message this evening, which I'm going to let her tell this message because I believe you are the only one who can deliver it. So without further ado,
yay, drum roll, please. Okay, well, where do we want to start, really?
Your name and who you are and what do you do first, and then we will dive right into your right into what you want to share.
Okay, well, my name is Girstin Bergquist. I am still trying to figure out who I am, as we always are usually. But I do enjoy. I'm a baseball coach for Little League. I do things that are fun, but then I also do things that help people. I help victims from crisis situations. I help people that are presented with mental health disorders that are discombobulated at the moment and don't know what to do. And I'm also trying to break stigmas on substance abuse issues. So there we go. I'm a systems advocate, and I basically help people of crime, victims, and other people navigating the judicial system to get reprised, basically. So that's kind of what I do right now.
Oh, and Angela says, hello, ladies. Hello.
Hey, girl.
Angela's my #1 fan. When this show gets larger, she's going to be like in the audience all the time. I'm going to make sure I'm near Florida so she can be in the audience. But
well, she better have a payroll, Ash. She better have an extra.
Hey, she's going to be my keep it real person. Like, you know what I mean?
We need that checked.
And then Leah says, hey, you go, girl. True gift. Look at that. All right. So this is the part of the episode where I go, tell everyone what is the story that got you behind here. But I know your story is a little different now. So if you actually want to tell everybody about like what your life has been like, and then as I always say, the floor is open to you. So feel free to share whatever you feel called to share.
Okay. That's no pressure at all, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me on. Well, let's see. I could take this back about when the coronavirus began. I'm here with my father. I share in a 2-bedroom apartment with my father. He's my roommate. He was out of town. He starts complaining about COVID-like symptoms. So before he gets back into town, I begin talking to friends who are our age, basically, and who are having trouble getting tested themselves, but have avenues to places that are testing. So when he arrives back in town within 48 hours, I find a place to get him swabbed. We wait 4 days. In the meantime, he begins the hydroxychloroquine, and also he's on a albuterol inhaler. Around this time, within a couple of days of him getting tested, I became ill myself. So I started exhibiting the same symptoms as him, except I guess mine were a little bit more complicated because I had a lot of symptoms in the chest, where my father's was high fever. We both had a lot of sweating for days and days on end, which really what feels like weeks. Our body temperature kind of fluctuates. So I was reporting all these symptoms that my father had, plus the chest symptoms to my doctor. Meanwhile, I sent her a picture of my leg, which has now kind of ballooned up and blown up for almost no apparent reason. I dance sometimes. I try to hobble around the best I can, as a pirate with one good leg. But I've really had some trouble there, I guess, just keeping my body up. So around this time, we're awaiting his test. He starts the hydroxychloroquine. The doctor puts me on azithromycin because now she's awaiting my results too. So we all both have swabs in there that are waiting to be revealed, and the doctor just immediately starts to treat me for COVID, which was amazing because I did have friends that were our age, like I said again, who weren't able to test, and it was really because of my father why they put me through the testing as well when I began the symptoms. What was a little bit daunting, I suppose, is the fact that it turned out that I didn't have COVID at the time. They swabbed me twice, and both times I came back negative. Yet I'm getting calls from the Department of Public Health that are basically telling me a lot of these tests are only halfway certain. There's a 50%, negative, false, positive, negatives, all sorts of weird things have happened with the testing. So they tell me, just make sure you're isolated and you assume that you have it and start living like you have it, meaning don't go outside, don't walk your dog. And if you do, you're all masked up. And, I'm in LA, I'm in California. Where everybody's outside. And I know that's been a problem with keeping people inside doors, right? So here we go with my father now being almost gravely sick. All right. He starts having a wet cough. He's been prone to pneumonia for years now. And that's when things started getting really hot and heavy. He finished his first pack of hydroxychloroquine. And then I actually called the doctor and I had to ask him to start on the azithromycin. He's been now on 2 extra doses of azithromycin, and he's still experiencing a light fever, heat and some pain around his neck. And that's kind of how it presented for me. That was weird. I've been sick several times. I almost died of a strep throat when I was in my teens. I had mono, and this is the worst I ever felt. Like there was times I couldn't get up to go to the bathroom. I couldn't shower. I couldn't, just functioning that you do every day. You almost take that for granted, and pretty soon you can't do anything. So here's my poor dad. Now I'm sick. So who's taking care of my dad, right? I mean, it was just pandemonium. So I remember during that time, I would get up and I would check on my dad and come back to bed and pass out for about a week. And I really just wasn't conscious. I wasn't aware of anything. And then we get my tests back and they're negative. And we're like, that's strange. Let's test you again. So I go in for my second test. And again, this was negative. After showing those pictures, they bring me in to get a scan, an ultrasound. And they find out my leg is very clotted up and down. And I could possibly even have pulmonary embolisms. So I'm ordered on a strict regimen of bed rest and a high dose of a blood thinner to start. And this came as very dismaying, shocking news because all of a sudden this condition became life-threatening. I had the receptionist basically, shake me and say, look, forget about the corona. You might have a DVT. We need you to get in here right away to scan you. And the ironic part is if my dad didn't come down with pneumonia, I probably would have died from a pulmonary embolism. I probably would have had a clot come back up to my heart or my lungs and stop my body. So that's very scary because my old primary doctor, whom I had contact with at the time, just sent me some pain medication and some ointment for my leg that was big. And then my dad's doctor sees it and she's right away, she thinks it's a DVT, sends me in, and sure enough, it is. So now we're realizing that I probably did have something viral, if not a mild form of the COVID-19. and it may possibly just to make it up to my mucosal membranes, and that's why the swab was coming back negative. So I kind of was hit by two things. She really thinks it's viral and the DVTs. So now everything kind of really makes sense. Since then, I found out through my research that there are some great avenues of advocacy out there for people like me who have struggled with this type of health issue. There's something called Stop the Clot, and Stop the Clot is a nonprofit organization that basically includes raising awareness to these blood clots that are walking around. I mean, you've heard of your aunt, your ex-aunt falling over at a dinner show from a heart attack. You hear about your cousin, just going through either a heart attack or a stroke. And sometimes you don't even investigate that. We just say, oh, she had a stroke. Let's bury her. Oh, he had a heart attack. Let's bury him. And what I've realized now is that if my father didn't come down with corona and I didn't seek him help at the time that I did, I would have been sitting here either with my, I might have needed an amputation, or there's just a trifecta of things that could have happened. So I felt like this was a very strong thing to talk about, because deep vein thrombosis and pulmonary embolisms usually aren't discovered until it's almost too late. So it's pretty scary. So now we have like the double threat of the corona and the DVT. Since then, my father is now the more viable of the two. He's actually going out and doing things when I'm having to be nailed to my bed and I can only go to the bathroom. I can't go up the stairs like more than twice a day. So I'm really chained to my space more than I ever have been. Just like a lot of us have been, right? A lot of us right now are chained to our space. This is hard, especially for us claustrophobics almost. It's almost like that trigger that comes off in you. You're like, I want to walk my dog. I want to go to the beach. I want to ride a bike. And you can't even do those things anymore. I mean, I had my doctor tell me when I was awaiting my results to walk my dog, just let her stay on our balcony and get pee pads, because she didn't want me walking around and spreading it if I had it. So things are pretty crazy. But my message is really to show that, look, my dad and I have both made it through, or at least I think I'm still making it through. But my dad has finished his last pack of azithromycin. He's shown great progress. He's a 70-year-old man with prior pneumonias, and it could have been very gravely bad for him. And I could have been telling a different story today, which is what really is scary to me and why I had to talk to you and put this out there for other women to hear. I think the whole fear mongering thing is we should be aware of what coronavirus is, but we should also be aware that we can survive, and with the proper precautions, and if we catch it early, and as long as we don't have resistance from the medical world to get tested, which I know some of us some of the younger people do. And it's not excluded just to old people, as we know now. And you don't only have to have pre-existing medical conditions to acquire the virus. So that's something else that we really need to consider. And I think my father's example of him being on a severe bed rest for 4 weeks, and now on the 5th week, he's out there walking my dog because I have to have my leg elevated all day. There's just something intrinsically powerful about this experience to me, because it's just given me hope. It's shown me what the worst can feel like, what the worst, how bad it could be, how scared you could be. I mean, I was going to bed not knowing what would happen to my father. For a while, we couldn't find thermometers. They were all sold out everywhere. And even ordering one online would take 2 weeks. So I started banging on neighbors' doors, asking for a thermometer. I mean, imagine when I go out there now and they see me and they realize that, my father had COVID and I might have too. And I'm just walking the dog, pounding on everybody's doors, can I have a thermometer, please? I mean, it was pandemonium, Ashley, it really was. It was like the first week of my dad becoming ill. And then also the whack of me getting ill, double entendre, really. It really scoped us out. And so my dad and I are both living with greater purpose than we ever have, really, because we're both lucky to be here. So it's an amazing feeling. I'm just very grateful I can tell my story, and I'd love to answer like any questions anybody else has, or you of my experience, obviously.
She said, Angela said, so glad you were both getting better. Thank you for sharing this journey.
Oh, thank you.
So I want to take a moment to give some people context, because you were on the panel. What was it? Like a month and a half.
It was almost exactly that time. It was that week my father started coming down with symptoms. It was that week that I met you.
Yeah, and so tell everybody a little bit about what life was like before this happened, because because the whole thought of this was the light and the darkness, and it's funny because I remember I asked you about the title and we had the mix up, and I was like, well, this sounds really convenient. So you're talking about the light, finding the light within the darkness, but yeah, give everybody a little bit of context of what life was like before this happened, because I really have an interesting comparison that I want to do after that, and I really love your talk. Yeah, give them some context.
I'm picking up what you're throwing down, Ash. Well, my life is in the stages of being rehabilitated, I will say. Okay. I've made some major changes in my life in the last year, including separating from an abusive relationship, which really rocked my soul and rocked my earth. It changed my life completely. And I have a very extreme case of the repercussions that had happened after I was trying to get the abuse to stop. So that's a second kind of issue there. Is I was coming from a place where I was in healing mode, incubating mode, going to classes and therapy and almost going back to school online. I became my own lawyer, basically. I became my own medical advocate as well. I do a lot of investigations on what causes this, what causes that. And I am trying to go back to school for sociology or some kind of human studies. So I have been in this, in a relationship for over 12 years. And, it was a classic, he's the love of my life type of abuser type of relationship, of course. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about a level of education and exposure that this person had to relinquish some of these tactics on me, which was very devastating at the time. And I've been living, because of the fallout with my husband, I've been living most of my life now with my father. And unfortunately, neither of us, my husband nor me, had the children. So it's been hard. We've both been separated from the children. This was something that I was almost not even going to get into today because it should be saved for an extra topic. But since we do have some time, I might as well talk about it. There's something here called a failure to protect charge. And women need to know about this because women are having their babies basically kidnapped from them and not being told why. And what we don't understand is that there's a whole different type of judicial system here that helps children and supposedly helps families rehabilitate when they are going through trauma. In this case, I had a restraining order that was filed against my husband for 2 months, and I was trying to make myself, distance and be able to heal. And during that 2 months, a lot of things happened behind the scenes, behind my back that I didn't realize. And one night, social services comes with 4 policemen and what looks or is supposed to be a warrant that has no information on it except the judge's name. And they come in the middle of the night and they take my son away without any reason or why. And I had to wait a week to go to court to see him. And it's a travesty because time means something to me, as time should mean something to all of us, because it's something precious that we don't ever get back. So I had to really jump into finding why this is happening. And after what I can say is almost been half a year of searching for these answers, it's because in this relationship, I lost myself and I wasn't able to put my foot down early enough. And the judicial system wants you to recognize abuse immediately. And if you don't, that could be a reason why you're losing your children. And you don't even realize that. A lot of people want to avoid family court, but the real daunting aspect here is juvenile court. Because juvenile court, it's a whole different set of rules where the children now you're basically in a foster care situation where your kid is a foster child. And the separation, tore me apart, but it put me into a proactive state where I was always trying to figure out ways how to get him back. But part of my strategy in this is really digging deep in and understanding what is it about me that allowed that abuse to happen for 12 years in the first place, and trying to maintain some kind of culpability that, I did have to play a part in this. It's hard sometimes for us to do that. And especially in court, it was a bad situation for me because most of this evidence that was used against me to keep my child from me was hearsay. It was hearsay. And that's actually permissible in juvenile court, which is something that we don't know. So let's say your ex-husband goes to court or goes behind your back and goes to social services and tells them all sorts of stuff about you that's not true. And then one night your child's taken away without any kind of rhyme or explanation, and you have to wait a week to see that child, if not more sometimes. You're supposed to get a hearing within 72 hours, I believe, which I did not because it happened later on in the week. So we had to go through the weekend. And there I was with my hands up, on my head, trying to wonder, like, what the heck just happened? Like, why did my kid just take off out of here kicking and screaming by social workers and policemen? It was a very scary night, traumatic night for me and my son. And so that's kind of where I was coming to you, I guess, when we first met, was I'm coming out of this big life change, momentous, and I've had to work for it. I've had to go to classes and take tests and all sorts of hoops that they make you do to get your kids back. And here I am, 6 months later, still, just trying to do everything that I can to get my son back. And it's just been a eye-opening experience because I meet girls, meet other women, I meet mothers, moms that will have the same story almost. Like my child was taken last week. I was told to come to this class, and pretty soon you're learning DV. You're learning all about domestic violence. And basically for me, all these classes made me an expert in domestic violence. And I wanted to dig a little bit deeper because the abuse that I sustained was so manipulative and not in your face and didn't turn physical until it did. And I was lucky that I had those 12 years because some women don't get that much time before something physical does happen. And I guess my main message here is that, look, if you are in a physical abusive relationship, even psychologically abusive relationship now, the law is now privy to recognize that you have inflicted harm on your children by exposing them to that abuse. So if you stay in an abusive relationship, you really do have a chance of losing your kid. And that's the bottom truth, is that they will use anything against you to keep that kid in the state's control. One thing that really hurt me was that the restraining order that I had filed was used against me as evidence that I was aware that my husband had abusive tendencies that I was allowing. So basically I had to plead no contest to something where I disagreed. I disagreed with that charge. I disagreed that I had neglected my child. I made, I guess, I tried to ration all these decisions that the government was making to control me and control my son. And so what I did was I put that into my advocacy work. And now I'm living every day with this grounding and this purpose. And missing my son has been the worst pain ever. But also now making through this kind of symbolic time of health crisis. It's a horrible time economically, health-wise, everywhere in the world. And I'm seeing things a little bit greener and clearer. And I don't feel victimized. And that's the thing about abuse, is that I went for a long time without feeling like a victim. And that's why it's confusing. And people need to be aware that as soon as you get the inkling that this person could be harmful to you or your child, you need to go away, or else you could be held accountable for subjecting your child to more danger, if that makes sense, Ashley, right? Mm-hmm. So that was something that was very hard for me because I didn't know. I basically had to be my own detective and figure out why, and nobody was really telling me why I don't have my son anymore. And I go to court and it's just a Rolodex of hearsay, things about me, which I couldn't even fight. So it's definitely a part of law that really needs to be remodified, because society, we can't live in black and white. We have to understand nuance. We have to understand sophistication. We have to understand that not every girl that lets her husband sleep in the bed while her kid is next door is a bad mom. Like I did a lot to counteract, I believe, the abuse that was happening in my home throughout the last few years. I became very rigidly involved in my son's life and decided to start. That's when I started baseball coaching, because I grew up playing softball. And we really built a strong bond over that. And it was a way for him to see a woman, not only a woman, but his mom, in like an empowered place. You know, your team, it's all boys. Baseball is a man's world. I was one of the only female coaches in Los Angeles when we were opposing all these other cities. So I'm coming from a place where, you know, the men see me and they think I'm ridiculous. They don't understand why I'm coaching baseball until they see me hurl the ball from shortstop to home, you know, on a practice play. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get it. But you have to earn your stripes. It's a man's world, Ashley. And, you know, to be honest, that's been hard too, because I've had to fight for that. You know, I've had to fight for staying on top of my son's emotional well-being and fight for him to continue baseball. Even it's been a fight. And now with the shutdown, here's my little boy who used to be very active. He's an athlete. I mean, we're going to the Dodgers. I promised him, you know, I'm like, I'm going to be the manager of the Dodgers and you will be a player in 15 years. I guarantee you 10 years, I'll get you there. I'll do whatever I have to do to get you there, you know? And I fell in love with coaching, even in that realm. I noticed that I could talk to the kids and break through that barrier of the child very quickly and have them not only be like pumped up and excited about getting to the plate and hitting some home runs, but doing the best for their team and themselves and getting that kind of like team spirit and what we play sports for anyways when we're little. You know, we don't really play to win. You play to learn. And a lot of children and even parents will put pressure on their kids to really encompass those things. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey, but my life for the past few years has been complicated. But to be honest, it's made me who I am now, and I'm grateful for it, because before I was an Orange County girl by way of Beverly Hills, navigating my life, and at least now I have some street cred, right? So getting by. So yeah, that's kind of like where I am right now. I just want mothers really to be prepared to face judicial systems if they are ill prepared to put down their feet and say no more. That should be something that women should understand, because it could help prompt women out of abusive relationships if they knew that there was a threat of their child being taken away permanently. I mean, some mothers, as we know, I mean, some kids just get adopted into foster care and that's it. And, that's not gonna be my boy. So I've been fighting very hard, every day. And even the waking minutes that I get every day since this whole COVID thing started have been all dedicated to figuring out a way to A, clear my name, and B, get my son back so they can prove to everybody and show everybody that I'm a good, capable mother. It's my right. And it's hard to give that up. And I know you're a mother too, Ashley. So, it's just very complex. And so I definitely have a lot of deep pain and sorrow that I wear, but it comes out, in a comedic type of burner way, in a way. I have a bunch of phrases that I'm trying to keep for my mental health awareness t-shirt line, where I'm going to try to break stigmas with saying some ironic quotes that I've gathered from the last half year. Can you imagine this? Oh my God. I mean, I got it down. So yeah, I'm strategizing and trying to just keep a steady stream.
Well, first, before I go any further, I want to just say thank you for being open to sharing that. When you shared that, like when I asked you that question, I didn't imagine that. So, but I'm really grateful and honored that you felt called to share that. And I want to take a step and say that I resonate with you on that level. And that's probably why we connect. When my daughter was 6, her father had begun his journey on meth, but he realized he put her in therapy without telling me, and then used the therapy to take me to social services because
that's used against you too, your mental health. Even
after filing a restraining order against me, because his wife didn't like me and she didn't want me in the picture, and she figured if she took my daughter that would take me out of the picture, because she thought that I wanted to be with my my daughter's father. So they, the week I was slated to get her back per our custody agreement, he called me at work and told me that he was taking her. And they filed emergency custody in the state of North Carolina. You said, utilized, had 3 pages worth of shit just written up on me. Like, I was a pharmacy technician at the time, and they said because I was a pharmacy technician, I would crumble up little pills of white dust onto my daughter's toothpaste, and it would make her drowsy, and all this like crazy shit. Like 2 pages of hearsay that they had no evidence against. And then the coup de grace, I guess, was that they utilized my 6-year-old to testify against me in court. And so, and my journey was 6 months. Like, they, on hearsay and a 6-year-old being manipulated, they completely reversed the custody agreement. Like, I didn't see my daughter or talk to her for over a month. You know, so for when you speak about that, like, I feel that on such a heart level, because that in and of itself is almost like a form of abuse, like a judicial.
Well, it is. And I think I found out that, that it really is a type of abuse that is almost reserved for the elitist, if you know what I mean. It's like, you have to know about that. You have to know how social services work to actually work the system to then abuse you once more. And that's how it felt to me. It was that last shotgun, you know, that last shot from the gun that got me to wake up. And to be honest.
Well, I was going to say, his wife at the time, who's now his ex-wife, she had been a secretary for social services. So she knew all the right people. The lawyer I had previous to that, she had been sleeping with him. So I had to hire a completely new lawyer because it was, of course, a conflict of interest. So yeah, you want to talk about someone who knew the system enough to fuck with my life, like, for 6 months. And I mean, my daughter came back. So I say that to you now, outside, you know, this show and everything, and to anybody else, to keep fighting. Like, I remember my mom coming to me and she's like, we're like 4 months in and we're still fighting and we're thousands of dollars into it. And she's like, maybe you should just settle for the weekend, you know, whatever. And I said, no. I said, because you know what? I said, then that makes everything they're fucking accusing of me look true. Yeah. I said, that makes every fucking thing. And I said, I am her mother. And I said, until the day I die, and I'm sure you get this, I said, I will never, ever stop fighting for my kids. I said, I don't give a living shit if I don't see her. I said, she will know till the day she turns legal and she can see it that her mom fought every day for her. I said, I don't care what crap they put in her head. And, you know, and so I say that to you to just, man, it sucks. It's hard. Like, that was like one of the hardest pieces of my life, to sit there and, have to stand in court and see your child and not even like be able to touch them and all this other stuff. And
or even say hi. I mean, in my case, it was, you know, I didn't have anybody sitting around to monitor my interactions. So I'd be sitting there across from my son in court, you know, just kind of blowing in kisses for 4 hours, you know, and you're like, wow, it's really came to this. But the thing is, actually, is that I'm glad that we're even able to connect about this certain experience, because it's something that is I almost don't even want to talk about, because I'm afraid people are going to do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those dirty topics. It's a dirty trick to get your kid away from you, just for that one last abusive punch. You know, it's that metaphorical punch, really.
Well, and what bothers me about your story, is that you went through all this abuse and you realistically were the victim in this. And they wonder why women don't fucking come forward with this stuff. This type of shit where it's basically set up to benefit either the state or the man, the abuser. I mean, it's not always men, but the abuser. And the woman is still made out to look like the piece of shit, even though she's the one who's gone through this. You know, I mean, I had like when I had evidence of my ex and his wife housing crackheads in their house doing drugs in front of the kids, but they didn't want to hear about any of that. I had a fucking custody agreement, and he took her out of the state, and they said, well, when he comes back in the state, if we happen to catch him when he's around, then all we can do is make you guys go back to court.
Right.
So what protection does this $5,000 custody order do for me? So like, I'm glad you're actually talking about this, because I'm super passionate, because I found out that biological parents cannot. So ladies out there, you can don't ever let your husband, boyfriend, whatever, threaten you and say that they'll take you for kidnapping if you leave with the kids. The biological parent can never be taken for kidnapping. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
That I know of. Now, it might have changed. And Jennifer says it's a shady system, and when people know how to manipulate it, it's fucked. It really is. And yeah, man, just when that happens, you got to look at life with a little bit of grace. I remember someone saying that. They're like, you just got to breathe. And I think sitting in a courtroom, staring at the people who have attacked you for so long and not being able to like do what you want to do. Like I was.
Oh my gosh, I know.
We talk about patience, like
yeah,
Jesus. But I'm always passionate about that because like you said, yeah, it changed like in a minute. Just like this happened with you. In a minute, it just your whole life. But I always remember going through it thinking like this is preparing. I told my mom, and I guess I was foretelling because my divorce came about 2 years after that from my narcissist addict ex-husband.
Oh boy.
And I remember telling my mom, I said, this isn't it. Like this isn't the worst thing in the world. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, this is just preparing me to handle so much more. And with my ex-husband, I was on the verge of having a stroke because I was under such a large amount of stress and all this other stuff, you know, and I left my son with him because he didn't work and I had to work. So, you know, I think it's these things that prepare us to go through life, you know, to prepare us. And like you said, it's not the most ideal situation. In fact, it's not at all. But look what it has done for you as far as growth. Like that was I'm going to tell you, that was probably the only thing that kept me going through it, is looking at what it was doing for me as a person. Because if I had given into the darker thoughts that I had,
yep, I know. I'm right there with you, babe.
I'd be in jail for murder. I'd be in jail for murder. Or I would have ceased living. Like I didn't want to live, man. Like I had my son, but I just like, you know, no, you never love one child more than the other. So regardless of how many kids you have, whether, you know, when one is gone, like some piece of you just goes away. And Angela says, my 2 babies were ripped out of the house by the state of New York by my husband, who was a cop sleeping with another cop.
Oh God, Angela, I'm so sorry. Jeez, that sounds horrible.
I am happy you talked about that because it blows my mind. We talk about all these mother-loving states, but it blows my mind how really rigged it can be against the mothers. You know, it really, and from the state's perspective, you know what I mean? From the state's perspective, and it's like, I mean, this blows my mind. But I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that, because that's not an easy story to share.
Wow. Well, I mean, the point that the big thing that I learned is that, like, yes, the state basically accepts as soon as you see any inkling of abusive behavior, they want you to run the other way. And if you don't, even before the child is born, they're going to use that time against you as showing that you are aware of of a problem being present in the first place. And for me, it was like, yes, there was a problem, but I had always thought I was dealing with it accordingly. And I come from a place where, you know, I didn't have training about how to handle these things. And not a lot of us do. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where when you go through it, you get your bearings and you learn. But other than that, it's like I said, this judicial type of juvenile law is it's a different book. It's a different planet. So we do have to be prepared, and us moms, we need to know that, look, we can be culpable of neglect and harm on our children if we remain in these abusive relationships, verbal, you know, or physical. It doesn't really matter. Emotional abuse is also going to be a sign of physical abuse later on. It's not like we ever just have emotional abuse and they back off. If you stay, it's almost, you know, statistically proven that when you stay with somebody that is like you said, a narcissistic, sociopath, all these little personality disorders, if you're putting up with their crap, you're going to get pinned with that. And that's what we need to know, because sometimes you don't even see it. We're being conditioned. Abuse is a conditioning. You know, it's not something that is black and white. It happens little bit by little bit until you can't stand it anymore, and then it explodes, and then you get out. Most people, or a lot of people I've met almost to get out with their lives. I've met a lot of women just going to different places who survived a murder suicide. And that's sickening. It's sickening to think of the statistics out there, that it's hard, and it's hard for the public to see them. It's hard for the public to say, oh, I want to know about this. You Google domestic violence on YouTube, there'll just be a bunch of pictures of black eyes and hardly any views. And you're wondering, why is this not getting any views? And my thing is like, create the content that is not only socially engaging and brings awareness, but also is contemporary to the audience we want to connect to. And that's where I want to get going. I want to get our girls, our boys, anybody, I want health class to have a domestic violence, intimate partner abuse portion. They should include that. We shouldn't just be, learning about STDs and drugs. We should be learning how to live a proper life and protect ourselves properly. I had my daughter when I was 19. I have 2 kids. I have a 17-year-old who is going to the University of Chicago next year. So it's a big deal. I haven't been with her for the last 4 years because she's been going to an elitist school, trying to get into Ivy League colleges. She was actually staying with her biological father for the last 4 years. And when this issue came up with my son, and now going to be my ex-husband, my daughter was affected by this as well. She was actually given complete custody to her father that had abused her as well. And that's the reason why she wasn't with him. So it's like, things aren't cohesive. It doesn't make sense. I feel like there needs to be some checks and balances for things to move in the right direction. And that's why the systems advocacy is an important realm for me, because I want to show how to get people to that point before they get there. Because once they get there, you're in shock for 3 weeks. You don't want to get out of bed for 3 weeks. And then pretty soon life is just moving and months go by. We need to step up, and we need to educate each other, because that's the only way to get our messages out. Only way. I mean, we're not going to see any propagandas posted, behind us trying to help us as mothers. We're going to learn the hard way.
Well, and they talk so much about, well, why didn't they come forward and, being about women and stuff. But it's like, if you guys were really about women being protected and stuff, like you said, there would be content talking about that. There would be things talking about, about what happened, what signs to look for and things like that. I mean, they almost don't tell you, like you said, until it's too late. There's no emphasis on, oh, this is what you're going through. And then there's no compassion. There's no compassion for anybody who goes through it. It's like, oh, well, you're just as bad as it's like basically saying you're just as bad as the abuser themselves.
Right. That's true. And they want you to be as culpable. And it gets to the point where you're signing your name on a line saying that you're responsible for this. And that's just, I had to eat it. And I had to just jump into classes and try to beat this guy from his programs, his 52-week program for a batterer. But he can take up to 3 classes a week if he wanted to. So that means that in the grand scheme, he could possibly beat me to getting my son back. So there's a lot of fine areas that make you just feel so disturbed. And I think that's where we really need to clear it out. I mean, it's 2020, and I keep saying that, but I can't sometimes fathom where we are right now, and things are still occurring the way they are. I mean, even with the pandemic, how that was, handled. It's just, there's so many things that we're not prepared for.
Well, in the way, and Angela says she got them back. She said, but it was horrible for us all. And I don't wish that situation on any.
Yes, Angela, that's exactly what I'm doing. I mean, honestly, I feel like I don't want to be a paralegal, but I want to be a headliner to help talk about these taboo issues, to make them less, taboo, really.
Well, and you know what? And I really hope you talked about wanting to start a show. I think that sometimes is one of the best things you can do while you're on your journey. The reason, and I don't know that I've shared this with my audience, but the reason, and I shared it with you a little bit, the reason I started this show, the reason I started the podcast was because I realized that we were touching only the surface of women's issues, but not actually reaching down to the dark, dirty pieces of what women actually go to, because it makes people uncomfortable. And I say people by the patriarchy. No offense, but it doesn't make other fucking women uncomfortable to talk about being abused by a man. No, it makes the men fucking uncomfortable. And I'm going to say this from a point of view because it is. It makes the men uncomfortable. It doesn't make the women uncomfortable. The only women who get uncomfortable are the women who don't see men as abusers. And there are women out there who see it like that. And and this is coming from a place of passion as well as like a truth that I've seen. So what I realize is that there are women like yourself and myself who are dying to have these conversations, but no one wants to hold space. No one has the balls, maybe except Oprah, to talk about this. And it was a missing area. And I said, you know what? I want to have conversations because here's the deal. I said, if you want to come on and talk about how you went through a rape and you had a miscarriage because of it, then you know what? You can come here and talk about that because this is the space for that. And it is because of being able to hold space for people to have those conversations that you're going to show up while you're working to show up in that other realm. And I think I would highly recommend you consider something and keep moving forward and doing what you're doing, because there are women on this world and in this planet that need you to be an advocate so that they can learn to use their voice. Like I said, when you share your story, somebody else is going to go, oh my God, like, you know, now I can, you are making the changes by talking about it, you know, because there are some women who maybe didn't know about that. I didn't know about that. Like that was really, like, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my God, like I could have like lost my kids again.
Right. And that's well, the threat for me here is if, you know, I feel like if my son is released back to me and I get shoveled back to family court, and then pretty soon, have you seen that documentary? There's a documentary right now that's really strong about a mother fleeing from family court to get safety in different European countries. So it's like there's ways here to navigate, but you're giving that victim or that survivor the last option of survival, which is leaving the country and being, you know, I mean, we don't have the system set up to hold the people that are abused. That's the thing, is we're not there yet. So that is why I do want to talk about it. I do want to have a show. My thing right now here is really, I'm doing my studies, which is taking quite a bit of time because I want to be so informed. You know, I want to be somebody that knows, that can at least hear one person's story and say, okay, you need to meet with this person, you need to go to this department, and you need to read this book. And, you know, like, it has to be in that type of mode, strategy, because right now we don't have a strategy. So, you know, and I meet women that are like, oh my God, I pushed my husband who was trying to attack my baby, and I got charged with abuse or assault, spousal assault. I mean, you hear the most bonkiest things, and you wonder, how is this still happening to people? It seems so archaic and not in a great way. I mean, the worst way possible. There's nothing homegrown about this. There's no protections for the right people to come forward. Well, so we need those protections and that safety net.
Well, it's happening because people don't feel that they can speak up or that they're going to be heard. And so,
why would they? I mean, with me, what I told the courts is like, honestly, after people hearing my story, what if they're just two-feeted? What if they're just, oh my God, I can't handle it. I'm just going to suck it up, finish my life with this guy, no matter what, take it and not get the authorities involved. A lot of people who are savvy about that actually have, when I told them I went to the police, I mean, I got some of these reactions I got were crazy, Ashley. I had people that were horrified, women that were just like, what? You're going to get your kids taken away. It's almost like they already knew. And I was like sitting there like, why would I get my kids taken away? I can walk him to school. I'm cooking him breakfast. I am coaching his team. Why would I get my kids taken away? But then if I don't know, I had a lot of things creep back on me that I had to restudy to see why I got there in the first place. And the worst thing for me is talking about abuse, especially physical abuse, and having somebody ask me, so what did you do? Or why did that happen to you? And for my answer is like, look, I'm not going to give anything an excuse. And for abusers who want to do the she's crazy finger pointing, or she's a drug addict, finger pointing, or she's a kid beater, let them do that. Hold your space, know who you are, and just don't falter. It's so hard right now because you get pressured almost to just go with it, you know? And that's where I can't stand it. And I will speak up because I'm not going to let other women just go with it because it's easier and because the systems don't want to remodify their work. You know, we're not working for the people if we're not giving them a voice. Like you said, the voice is a very powerful thing. That's why we're in America in the first place. So to have all these rights stripped from you, and even now, I mean, think about how people, they can't go, like I said, go to the beach or you have to wear a mask to go to your car. It's just, people aren't used to these bars that are suddenly put around them until they are. And that's kind of what happened with the child issue with me, which was really scary because it did feel like an out-of-body experience, which I could only make better by researching and being obsessed with finding more information. So that's really where the power of, I think, knowledge and talking about it. And with my channel, I'm a makeup artist. I worked on film and television sets. Now I am basically disabled. I might have blood clots in my body for the rest of my life, and I'll have to be on a blood thinner for the rest of my life, meaning I can't take a baseball and die anymore. I can't drink like a sailor like on my birthday like I used to. All these different things that we now are taking, that we've taken for granted now are happening. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying to have those rights taken away from me. But I know now that with my voice, even just one person, actually going to that police station or calling that shelter up, that makes a difference, and we can let the enablers enable all we want. But us people that are really cycling through the chaos and trying to get changes made, we need to rise up and stick together because we are like-minded and we can get the job done. I mean, this is a daunting subject, and most people are very intimidated by it, intimidated by the law element, intimidated by never getting their children back ever. I mean, literally, me speaking about this today, it was not something I was planning on doing because there still is a part of me who thinks that I might never get my son back if I talk about it. So it's like it's a mind melter. But I don't want to play that game anymore. Just like you don't want to play it. We need to show these women that things can be better if we apply the right attention. And you actually are doing such a great job by honestly giving people like me a platform to speak. Because you're right. I mean, I will have my own channel, but I'm coming from a place of I do makeup and I did it because of therapy reasons. I had a hysterectomy in 2014. That was a botched hysterectomy. I spent almost 6 months in and out of the hospital on IV bags. I was doing people's makeup from my hospital room who were going to Oscar parties or award shows, and I would do makeup in my hospital room. And if it weren't for me getting sick in 2014 and having to have the hysterectomy, I wouldn't have had those makeup skills that I have now. And I'm not just slapping on makeup on somebody. I'm getting to know you. I'm understanding who you are. I've had girls on set open up to me about cutting themselves who are way too young to have thought that. But it's almost like this brush right here, this Lisa Frank brush right here, is a way to get people to relax and open up. And what I really want to do is start some educational type of makeup therapy, almost like beauty therapy, where I can teach the contouring while we're all kind of gently talking about the subject. That way people aren't going, oh God, this is such a heavy atmosphere. Let's lighten up the load. I'm not going to say like, let's make it enjoyable, but let's make it at least bearable for those to be open and comfortable and talking to you. And that's what I want to focus on, is just getting people to understand that they have more power than they ever thought. Even me, that's how I've had to learn the hard way. But with tools to de-stress and to kind of ground yourself, I think that's the way to go. It's the only way to survive. But you need those tools already. You need your toolbox. What's my toolbox have in it for hard times? What does that have in it? Does it have my therapist? Does it have my favorite colors? Does it have my Lowe's page to get my room redecorated to make me feel better? It could be anything, but I think we should all have a toolbox in reserve for these times when things are bad, so we can get out of bed in the morning. Because that's the last thing we want to do is not go into action when we are called into action.
I love that. And I thank you so much. We're getting to the end, but I want to
fast hour.
I know, right? It always goes by so fast, but I want to make a call to action for the women out there who come across this and who watch this, and for anybody, especially through what we're going through right now. Always always, like, y'all don't understand how powerful we are. And the moment you are quiet, when you should be loud, when you should use your voice, you give into complacency and passiveness. And when we ask questions about why the system is the way it is because people are so afraid to speak up when they need to speak up. People, like you said, go into inaction when they are being spurred to action. And you guys, it does take great courage to speak up and use your voice, but it just takes one person using their voice for somebody else to use their voice. So I guess I say this as a call to action. If you think that your voice is not important and that it will not make a difference, I can tell you after almost 100 women that I've talked to, that if it wasn't for one person sharing their story or using their voice, their life would not have been changed, or they would have not experienced something themselves that allowed them to share their story. So, like Girstin here, man, you guys, do not be afraid to use your voice. God gave you a voice for a reason. We go through what we go through for a reason. It's not always nice. It sucks a lot of times. Like, it does. It sucks. I mean, just this past January, I went through something with my daughter that was deeply profound and traumatizing for me, but for her, I mean, on an insane level. And she had to go through so much loss at 14, loss of herself, loss of a relationship with her father, and all this, and loss of her, of feeling like, just safe in her own body.
Yes.
And that is a deeply traumatic situation to go through. And so, life is not always easy, but if you can get on here, if my 14-year-old daughter can come out of a group home and 3 days later share her story about the worst mental ordeal she's ever been in her life and what her relationship with her father looks like now, then I can say to you guys that any of you can get up here and do this. And I'm telling you right now, from where we are at a point in history, if we are going to make anything better in this world, it is not going to be the government. It is not going to be, and it's not going to be the elitists that change anything. It's going to be a bunch of us getting up and getting fucking done with the bars and shit that they're pushing onto us and going, you know what, this doesn't work anymore. Because if y'all look back in the Constitution, the people can rise, okay? If the government don't work no more, the people can rise. And I'm probably going to be like,
no, and trust me, you don't want a bunch of me and Ashley's coming after you. So
yeah. So you guys grab your balls, whether you got them or they're metaphorical, okay? Grab your balls, shove them in your throat, and use those things, okay? Shove them in your throat and use those things, because the moment you stop speaking, the moment you stop using your voice, everything dies.
It does.
And we don't talk about it anymore. And if I know anything, and if history repeats itself, if nobody's talking about it, they can sweep it under the rug and they can gaslight everybody else and act like we're the crazy ones.
Yes, and it's going to keep on going if we don't say anything. So definitely we need to say something, just for the systems and the infrastructure to move in the progressive direction that we need it to. We really need to start honing in and binding up together. That's the only way. Like I said, you don't want me and Ashley coming to your house on a bad day. You know what I mean? You guys, hope you don't live in Texas, because we'll be massacred, Ashley. But trust me, I got your back, and I could already tell what kind of girlfriend you would be.
Listen, I got a taser. I'm not gonna say what I got.
Ashley.
Listen, I don't play fair, okay? I know my capabilities physically. I'm getting too old to hurt. All right.
Right. Exactly. Don't be like me when down for the count. You'll be doing podcasts out of your bed for the rest of your life. So we need you.
All right. So this is the end, sadly. So tell everybody about where is best to connect with you for anybody who wants to connect with you.
Yeah. Yes. Now I am moving my business to an online portion where I am teaching women how to do their makeup in different ways that they're trying to succeed. Like we'll have a goal. Like, do you want to feel more confident? Do you just want to go through work? Do you want to have a better skincare regime? And then I also want to teach the mastery of the artistic elements, color, contour, all that stuff. I want to make a cohesive package, but also integrate self-empowerment especially to young girls, teens and tweens needing makeup lessons. they might need a little bit more information about how to be women later on in life when there's so many binds around everybody. And that's kind of the thing where I want to go. I want to move into the space where I'm doing, I'm mastering my craft and showing people that they can get not even just therapy, but so many therapeutic aspects out of getting a better routine. Even my son, he's 10 years old. Guess what? He does a whole skincare routine. I've had both my kids on skincare routines since they were 10. And it gives them something special about themselves. It's like, it's a gift. It's something that they can do every day to make themselves feel better and also think about their mommy when things are bad. So it's wonderful. So please connect with me on facebook.com/Girstin. That would be for my makeup work. And then I also try to break down a lot of stereotypes by utilizing Instagram. So I've talked about body dysmorphia, eating disorders, all sorts of things on there to kind of get my point across. So please, yes, contact me on Instagram, and that would be Girstin. Instagram.com/Hera in the mirror, all underscored. So Hera is in the Greek goddess of fertility and love. How ironic was that, Ashley? Please. I didn't decide on that name this year. Hera's been my spiritual name for the last 10 years. And ironically, I've learned a lot about fertility and love and all sorts of other stuff that I didn't want to learn about. So here I go. Here we go.
What we do,
right? Oh my God, Ash. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. What we do as women, right? What we do.
Right. So please, yeah, don't ever hesitate. I love people to reach out to me and I'm the most non-judgmental person hopefully you'll ever meet. I mean, there's nothing about you that I'm going to judge. I love honesty. And I project that. I try to really project that integrity in myself. So thank you again, Ashley, for letting me be on here. And ladies, remember, one story can save one life. And let that be an investment in your life, in your own lives. Because honestly, what's more important than keeping someone here that has noble good for the others and will do better for the world? And right now, we need a lot of things for this world to get better. So hold hands.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. Like, I really do. I'm thankful for this conversation. I'm always thankful, but this one was definitely like a soul conversation. So,
well, thank you. I know. Thank you so much for having me. This is beautiful. Thank you. Honestly, I'm so glad to be on here, and I'm glad to touch your audience. And thank you for letting me be a part of what you're doing. It's very magnificent. Really, it's impactful.
Like you said, one story can change one woman's life. And for me, that's what it always is. It's like the one person that I can reach today, the one person I can help today. And my hope is that with my growth, I get to see everybody else grow with me, because I don't believe in growing solo. I believe that we all grow together. And I believe that that's how we're going to rise, is together. It's not going to be separate. So, so everybody, you guys are just like a massive manifestation of a dream that I've had for a very long time. So, I'm always grateful for you guys coming on and giving me some of your time, because, this isn't an easy space to be in, definitely, but I always hope that I facilitate it so that you guys feel comfortable enough to do it, because like you said, some of these subjects are heavy, but they don't have to be heavy.
They don't have to be. And that's where the appeal comes in, Ashley. That's where we come in. We show these women, like, look, let's learn something today and not turn ourselves off to the bad things in the world. Like that's powerful.
So, all right, you guys. So as always, thank you guys for stopping in. If you guys catch us on the replay, #replay, make sure you guys go link up with Girstin. She is phenomenal. You guys want to be a part of whatever she's doing. And also just, with your mission going forward, I hope plenty of women reach out to you and connect, because I think that's so very important.
I hope so too. And I really hope I could help impart some of my knowledge and answers onto those who are really needing it. Because sometimes it's an emergency basis and you're not getting a call back from the government that night. I can tell you that, especially on a Friday.
No, you're not. And as the banner says, you guys make sure to go to the TUF Woman Table YouTube as well as iTunes. We're on 5 platforms, but I want you guys to go to iTunes, rate and review as these episodes come up. I go 3 new episodes a month. So that's very exciting. So anyways, as always, we will be back next Tuesday with a new panel. You guys get prepared for this month. We're going to be talking about the masculine and feminine energies and why that's really important. Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. It's great because then I want to do a panel series on holistic health and how we can actually holistically bulk up our immune systems, the things that the not telling us. All right. Nobody's talking about how you actually holistically bulk up your immune system. And then get this, then we're going to do panels on survival. So life skills, survival skills, how to start a fire, how to can, how to do this shit.
Live off the lady.
Until we have the conversations that nobody's having, we're going to continue not having them. So you know what? I've been privy to be around a lot of this stuff. And I know there's a lot of people in my network that know a lot of this stuff. So you know what? If I can bring them together and have the conversations, that's what we're going to do. So you guys get prepared for a fun few months. All right?
Yeah, we're ready. Let's do this.
All right. All right. Thank you guys. I will see you guys Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.